Welcome back to Never Enough Novels for my top 10 best books of 2024. I'm so excited to actually rank my favorite books of the year this year, and you will never believe what my number one best book of the year is. I cannot wait to share it with you because it is one that I recommend to absolutely everyone and have been talking about nonstop. Before we get into it, make sure you hit like and subscribe to my channel so you can see all of my future book recommendations. And I will be putting the links to Amazon for all of these books down below, so if you find any that catch your eye, you can purchase them and help support this channel at no extra cost to you. Since I'm mostly a romance reader, most of the books on this list do fall in the romance genre, but you'll also find a few thrillers, fantasy, even a nonfiction book. So let's dive right in. At number 10, I have The Rulebook by Sarah Adams. She is one of my all-time favorite authors, and she brings us another sports romance that I adored. Derek is a football player who's on the cusp of returning to the sport after an injury, and he finds out that his new agent is his former flame. Since things didn't end well between them previously, they create a set of rules to keep things very professional between them. But one crazy night in Vegas throws everything into disarray. Now they are forced to play pretend husband and wife, and they realize that all of those feelings from college haven't exactly gone away. Nora is an absolute delight of a character, absolutely bursting with joy, but also full of grit and ambition. I love that she didn't change her personality at all to fit into the world of sports agents. She just made it work for her. The build-up between her and Derek was also so delicious. Tons of tension, and they were a really easy couple to root for. They clearly grew up since the first time that they were together and turned into two people who are truly meant for each other. And they also showcased really well throughout the book how to support and be there for your partner. Swoon! This had everything that I wanted from a sports romance. Number 9 is Summer Romance by Annabelle Monaghan. This author is incredible at writing relatable stories about women's and moms in their 30s. I loved following along with Allie as she navigated her new life after loss and after a divorce, and still just tried to balance the needs of her kids with taking on this once-in-a-lifetime love. This is a novel that doesn't shy away from difficult situations and really hard decisions, but ultimately it is so full of hope and joy. It managed to be lighthearted enough that you'll want to take this along on any vacation. Number 8 is The Game Changer by Lana Ferguson, and this is her hockey romance. It has all of the steam that you would expect from a Lana Ferguson novel, but it also has a ton of heart. Childhood friends Ian and Lila are reunited when he is selected to be a guest star on Lila's baking show. After an incident that turned his city against him, he is back on his home NHL team, and he's hoping that enough time has passed that he can just put what happened in the past behind him. Ian knew Lila as a kid because she is his best friend's sister, but she has grown up and he has definitely noticed. Lila, on the other hand, has had a crush on Ian since they were kids, so now she is seeing him for the first time, kind of all grown up as well. The chemistry between them is obvious, especially for viewers of the show, so they start to play up this flirtation between them, hoping that both can benefit from the good press. But what starts as a fake flirtation turns into something very real and very steamy. I adored the exploration of this relationship that changed from a long ago friendship to a very steamy connection. Plus, when Ian's past issues with his father turn into present ones, Lila shows that she is really there to support him and see him for who he is. I also really adored Lila's brother as a side character. He was the perfect kind of goofy foil to this developing relationship, and his interactions with both of them were just hilarious. This is an all-around fantastic romance novel that has all of the steam that you would expect from a hockey romance, but is very well written and also shows that the two characters, our couple, really support each other and have a strong foundation to build their love on. At number 7 is The Dixon Rule by Elle Kennedy. This is a spicy enemies to lovers book that also has a ton of great witty banter. Elle Kennedy is one of the masters of sports romances, and this is no exception. The Dixon Rule is technically the second book as a follow-up to The Graham Effect, but it can very easily be read as a standalone. Diana is our main character this time, and she is less than thrilled to find out that the cocky jock Shane is moving in next door in her apartment complex. He is obnoxious and loves pushing her buttons, so their bickering starts immediately. And I love that she tried to turn the whole apartment complex against him at the beginning. However, when Diana's ex also moves into the apartment complex, she needs a way to get him to stop harassing her. Enter a fake relationship with the literal guy next door, Shane. The chemistry between them, despite their bickering, is undeniable, And they eventually turn this fake relationship, sort of friendship, into an actual, like, simmering friends with benefits situation. But she has no interest in actually giving Shane her heart, even as he starts to prove that he might actually deserve it. I am so in love with these Briar University hockey romances. Shane and Diana are no exception. I adored their banter and their fighting, but also how they opened up to each other and truly showed that they deserve each other and this incredible romance that develops between them two. At number 6 is my first thriller on the list, and that is Worst Case Scenario by TJ Newman. I am a TJ Newman super fan, so I had very high expectations for this novel, and it absolutely delivered. She continues her style of heart pounding, super realistic disaster novels with a story that starts with a plane that crashes into a nuclear power plant. The implications of this situation are catastrophic, and the tension builds immediately. I devoured this, and from start to finish, I was enthralled by the idea of this scenario and what needs to happen to keep it under control and the sacrifices that are needed by all sorts of people involved in the disaster to stop huge implications from happening. I not only learned a ton about how nuclear power plants actually worked, I also felt like I was living this situation right along with the characters. I loved how she showcased multiple points of view, so not only those directly involved with the crash, but the workers at the power plant or the mothers, sons, daughters of the people involved, as well as like emergency personnel in the surrounding town, even up through the President of the United States and how he gets involved in a situation like this. Every single word kept me intrigued and devoted to finding out how this situation would play out and what ultimately would happen. I also recommend her other 2 books as well, so just do yourself a favor and get ready for the adventure of a lifetime when you read her 3 thrillers. My number 5 pick is Fangirl Down by Tessa Bailey. Apparently, this is just the year of sports romances because this is another one on my list that is a sports romance, but it is a little bit different because it focuses on golf instead of hockey. Fangirl Down was basically written for me because I'm a romance reader who also has developed a bit of a golf obsession of my own over the past 2 years, so I loved that she set her romance in this world. It features a fangirl turned into a caddy who develops a relationship with her golfer. Banter between the grumpy golfer and the girl who is desperately trying to get him to find his love of the sport again is phenomenal, and I just adored how she slowly won him over and he fell so hard for her. This is probably my favorite ever by Tessa Bailey. It has the perfect amount of steam along with a lot of great dialogue and a ton of heart as well. If you're tired of the typical like hockey or baseball sports romances, you're definitely going to want to give this one a try. And I promise you do not have to know anything about golf or even like golf to enjoy it. It's obviously the setting of the book and the profession of our main characters, but the real reason it's so high on my list is just how wonderful the relationship between these 2 is and how much I enjoyed reading about them. Number 4 is another thriller. It's called First Lie Wins by Ashley Elston. I remember reading this way back at the beginning of the year, and it has held up over the course of the year against all the other thrillers that I read. It is not at all creepy or suspenseful, so if that normally turns you off from books, then you'll definitely want to give this one a try. On the other hand, if you love twisty plots and enthralling stories, you're definitely going to want to read this. A woman working for the mysterious Mr. Smith is given a new name and backstory every time she starts a new job. This time around, her name is Evie Porter, and her assignment was to work her way into Ryan Sumner's heart. Over time, she has done just that, and they are now engaged, but he still has no idea who she truly is. Normally, Evie is one of Mr. Smith's best assets, but this job feels a little different, and she's starting to actually get a bit entangled with Ryan and developing some real feelings for him. At the same time, she's also has an understanding that this job feels a little different than her previous ones. So over time, we learn more about Evie's backstory, the previous job that she's done, and how she's investigating what's really going on with her situation. I couldn't put this down. I loved learning more about Evie's backstory while at the same time following along with her trying to unravel what's happening in real time. It's utterly compelling from start to finish and very different than any other thriller that I've read. I've also heard so many incredible reviews from other people as well, some who read thrillers all the time and still absolutely adored the plot twists and the interweaving story within this one, as well as people who don't normally read thrillers or mysteries and still really, really enjoyed this. Number 3 is the only fantasy on my list, and this is a cozy fantasy that I can't get enough of. It's called The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. I love this one because I could see myself returning to it over and over again. Whenever I just need a little dose of joy, like want to curl up with a blanket and a cup of tea, this is the book for that. When we meet our main character, Keela, she is working as a librarian in the capital city in this fantasy world. But rebels have taken over the city and are starting to burn down the buildings. So she quickly leaves with Kaz, who is her talking plant, as well as a few carts of spell books that she's saved from the library before it burns. Keela sets sail for the remote island where she grew up, hoping that she can take shelter in her parents' former cottage until she gets back on her feet. But Keela quickly realizes that she might never be able to go back to the life that she had there. So she is forced out of her introvert shell to start interacting with the other townspeople, as well as her overly friendly neighbor, who is also annoyingly quite handsome. To earn money, she starts to turn to her spell books for simple remedies that the island desperately needs. However, under the old regime, magic is strictly forbidden, so Keela is taking a chance here at doing some spells that she shouldn't be able to, but the townspeople know that they need someone to help keep the island alive and flourishing. Everything is going better than she ever could have hoped until a woman washes up on the island and starts to question everything that Keela is doing. I cannot express how much this book just felt like a warm hug. It has the most delightful characters, from the talking spider plant to the charming bakery owner to the magical creatures that inhabit the island. And Keela is so easy to root for herself. She is a true introvert who just loves her books and doesn't want to talk to people, but she really comes out of her shell just enough to be able to start to form friendships with unexpected folks, as well as a possibility at love with her handsome neighbor. You don't need to love fantasy to enjoy this, I promise. It doesn't get too heavy into world building or outrageous characters or plots. It is just a really cozy, excellent read that I think anyone would enjoy. The top rated romance on my list in the number 2 slot is She Really Going Out With Him by Sophie Cousins. I literally just finished this book a few days ago and knew pretty much from the start that I was going to rate this as my number 1 romance of the year. It features a divorcee who gets a second chance at love thanks to her meddling children and a work nemesis. Anna is readjusting to life after a fairly painful divorce, and she also finds out that things are going to be shaken up at her work, so she needs a new angle in order to keep her column. She pitches an idea to go on a series of dates that are selected by her children and not found online. But the new guy at work, Will, who is kind of a hotshot and has charmed everyone, suggests that he write a parallel column featuring his exploits in online dating. Anna is sick and tired of Will, and now he's coming after her column, so she is less than thrilled to be working alongside of him. But she still sets off on the series of dates picked by her children, and they range from the truly awkward to the starstruck. Along the way, Will gets this opportunity to write about a couples retreat in a different publication, so Anna reluctantly agrees to go along because she knows that this could be good for her career. But while the two of them are away in the woods for the weekend, something develops between them that is very unexpected, but Anna knows that it is not real life. Back in the real world, Anna refuses to believe that this could lead to any sort of meaningful connection. But this could be the chance she never expected at a love that she actually deserves. I was laughing out loud through this entire book because of the glimpse into Anna's thoughts and her Google searches that are the beginning of each chapter. They were an absolute goldmine and so relatable and funny. Plus, Sophie Cousins does an incredible job showing how a woman or mother balances the duties of caring for her children or for others while also trying to learn to care for yourself as well. I love how she didn't shy away from difficult situations involved in a divorce or decisions that women or mothers have to make about balancing caring for their children or taking a chance on a love of a lifetime. This is overall a fantastic romance and easily fits the number 1 spot on my list for romances this year. Which brings me to my number 1 book overall. It is, of all things, a non-fiction book. Who would have guessed? I know it is very out of character, and I think this is actually the only nonfiction book that I read this year. But when I thought about which book stayed with me the longest, which one I still think about, which one I recommended the most or talked about the most with other people, it has to be Nuclear War by Annie Jacobsen. Annie takes a realistic look at what would happen if our nuclear safeguards fail and our country gets involved in a nuclear war. In this terrifyingly realistic scenario, North Korea launches a missile at the United States, and Annie walks us through step by step, literally minute by minute, what would happen in the moments, minutes, and days afterward. I am normally not a nonfiction reader, but she presents all of this information in such a compelling way that I felt like I was reading a thriller. It's obvious that she did an incredible amount of research and spoke with everyone from top government officials to scientists involved in these nuclear programs. From her research, she weaves together an incredible story about how the world and most of humanity can be completely destroyed in just a matter of hours. I cannot recommend this book highly enough. It is utterly compelling, and I feel like it's very important for the general public to understand the implications of having nuclear weapons and the possibility of the scenario actually coming true. You will not be able to put this one down, just like I couldn't. That wraps up my list of my top 10 favorite books of 2024. I hope you found some new ones that you're looking forward to reading from my list. I would also love to hear what your favorite books of the year are so that I can get even more book recommendations for myself as well. So please share in the comments your top 5 or your favorite book of the year so that we can all see those also. And stay tuned for my next round of book recommendations.